Welcome to another episode of the Brothers Judah Show. My name's Joshua.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And today we are going to talk about the money system.
And it's actually a very special conversation because we disagree. So I think it'll be good for us to...
We're going to try to model a healthy discussion.
Hopefully we do a good job.
Yeah.
To start, I know we disagree, but I still don't even know what we actually disagree about. Like, we talk so much about it. Why don't you say your point that you want us to argue on, and then we can discuss it.
Well, I think the thing that we disagree about is you have seemed to express that money is a tool and is neutral.
Okay.
And I believe that money is not neutral and has a driving force.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the disagreement. I think we also disagree on the money system as a whole. While we would both agree, I think capitalism is the best system. I think
at least that we know so far, or that at least that we're able to do at our current level of spirituality and behaving.
But I still think it's a bad system that ends badly.
Okay.
Even though we both think it's the best system.
Okay, so first, to recap and make sure I understand this, I think it's a tool, and you think it inherently has a force on the dark side.
I think it, has a driving force in a direction, yes.
Now, just so I'm clear, does it have a driving force with or without interest? Because interest is another topic.
With interest.
Only with interest? What if there was a money system with no interest?
I think there are certain characteristics of money that give it a driving force, such as the fact that it doesn't decay. And I think a large portion of my position is based on usury, the fact that money is created as interest-bearing debt.
Okay, so I think so. Why don't we make that distinguish right now? Because if there was no interest, would we still have a disagreement? Where I think money is just a tool, and let's say there was no interest, it was just almost like bartering with an object like gold or seashells or whatever they use. There's an object, and we all agree to use it, and we now assign certain values, and it's easier to trade.
I think I'd have less of a problem with it. I think the fact that money doesn't decay and certain other properties of money give it a driving force, and even if we were using shells as money, it would still have that. But I think the main thing I have a problem with is usury.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like we could talk on both of those topics and probably take up the whole 20 minutes. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's just focus on usury and interest.
Just interest?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, do you want to start off? Do you want me to ask questions?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, usury is lending with interest. And, basically debt carries interest, which means, you have to pay back the sum of money that you borrowed plus an additional sum of money.
Okay. So to start off, I guess I want to make sure, let's say that we were not using money or our current fiat currency. Let's say we were bartering. So let's say I had, now I know these might be different, but let's say I had a pen or you had a pen, I don't know, and I said, can I borrow your pen? If you let me borrow your pen for the next month, I'll give you back 2 pens. Do you have an issue with that?
Yes.
Okay. So now what if it was not a pen? What if it was any other object on the planet? What if it was a seed, something that kind of could reproduce, like a vegetable seed?
That's one of the properties of money that I was speaking of. It can't reproduce. Money is barren.
Okay.
So a seed can reproduce.
So would you be okay then if I said I have a seed here, and if I lend it to you and you plant it, you'll then produce more seeds, and then you can give me back not only my original seed or a replacement for my original seed, but you'll also give me back an extra seed or something like that. Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Okay.
Because that's like saying I'll give you a portion of my harvest or something. Like that's something that reproduces.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
money doesn't reproduce. Like if I have a dollar bill here, it doesn't have a baby and make a second dollar bill.
No.
So I have to get that dollar bill from somewhere else.
And that's actually, right now we're assuming that we're not, like, if we're using gold, we're not mining more gold or have technology that can create more gold or things like that.
But we can print money.
So then we can print money, but we can't. So if I have, just like if I said I have a seed and I'll lend it to you, you can then create more by gardening and growing that seed.
Yes.
You can't do that with money. So,
but that's one of the properties of money. It doesn't decay. It can't reproduce. But the thing I want to focus on is interest. When our money is created, when it's printed, it's created as interest-bearing debt. It's lent into society. It's given to the banks to be lent into society with interest. The money to pay the interest isn't created with that money.
Yeah, so I agree with you on the, like, federal level, that it's very bad the way it is, the way how it's created with interest, and now how do you pay it back? I agree with you on that level. What I'm saying is not on that level. So not on, like, the whole society, the creator of the money that prints the money and feeds into society. I'm saying within that system, two people who can't print money, them trading back and forth with interest, not us and the money creators or the money lenders. So I'm not between us and the money lenders, us within the system.
Yes, but my concern is that the money system as a whole has a driving force with ill effects.
Okay.
So if I'm just looking at the individual and we're not considering the effects of the whole of the money system,
okay, so
it's not really addressing.
So what if our money system did not put it out with interest? Let's say the lender, the creator of the money for our society to use, let's say they put a certain amount of money out and there was no interest to pay it back, nothing. That was what it was in society. Maybe we can discuss whether or not they can put or take money back into the society, but let's leave that aside for now. Right now, money's in our society, and there's no payback of the lender or creator of the money. Would that be a bad society using that money system?
If there was no interest, because
no interest to the creator of the
debt. So let's say there's let's say that society has $100.
Okay, and how many people are in the society? 10?
Yeah.
10 people in society, and there's $100, and initially everyone has $10.
Yes.
Okay, that's that system. And no money can be created, and no money can be taken away.
Yes.
But it can be...
Then you can't have interest, because if you do, so let's say you say you want to build a factory that costs $12 and you only have $10.
Yeah.
And I say, I'll lend you $2 if you give me back $3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do that. You get another dollar from one of the other members of society, and you give me back my $3. Now I have 13.
Yeah.
And I keep doing that.
Yeah.
Until I have $90, and each of you only has $1.
Yeah.
Eventually, you guys are not going to be able to survive.
But what's to stop you from doing that without interest? What's to stop you from saying, I will mow your lawn if you give me $1, and then taking it and saving it and going, and you continually mowing lawns and getting money from everyone and never spending your money and accumulating until 90? You could still do that without interest.
Yes, but interest necessitates that you have to get $1 from someone else to pay me. You have to get it from someone else to pay me. It's money, and the fact that money doesn't reproduce.
So the scenario that I think that you might be talking about is if, let's say, you, without interest, you mow everyone's lawns, and you get down to you have $99, and there's one person with $1.
Yeah, but
and then you say, here, I'll give you $1, or I'll loan you, $1 if you give me back $3 or something. Now that money doesn't exist for him to give back, so now he's kind of in a situation where the only way he can get that $1 is from you, and if you say no.
But you wouldn't pay me if you had $1.
Yeah.
And you needed, let's say you needed $8 to survive, and you only had $1 left.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay me to mow your lawn. So
okay.
But if you owe me dollars, you have to pay me. if you owe me interest, you know? So it's like, I think the problem with the money system is that I think people get lost in theory and make arguments that don't happen practically in the real world.
Okay.
Like,
do you think I'm doing that now?
Yeah.
Explain to me how, because I'm not really sure.
Because I think there are certain effects of lending with interest that are not the same as working for money. Because when you work for money, you're providing something of real value in exchange for a dollar, right?
Okay.
When you're doing interest, you're providing $1 in exchange for an extra dollar. It's money making money. And that's the thing I have a problem with. Because money is barren and can't reproduce. So when money makes money, that means it has to come from somewhere.
I don't want to cut you off, but yeah. So I think what people are going to say, which is probably what I would have or had said, that money, the value of that money that is presented is for the trade of what it can be, what it can do. So it's and then there's the risk involved too, where I could not pay you back that money. You could lend me $1, then I give it to someone else, so then or I die or something, then you don't get that back. So to compensate for that risk, I mean, you're probably going to say I'm just kind of rationalizing and stuff, but
no, I think people, like, the effects on the societal level, I don't think are really well understood on the individual level.
So are you saying that the effects on a societal level of having interest is the negative, or are you saying it's a system that let's pretend, I mean, two Jesuses wouldn't lend money or anything probably, but
it doesn't matter if every soul on this planet was like Jesus,
was behaving perfectly and making honest.
Usury has a driving force, which means it has to keep growing. It has to keep growing, because if the sum total of all money on the planet, right, and it was created as debt.
That might be a point where we disagree, because you say it has to keep growing, and I don't see how it has to keep growing. In the example we said, where there's $100 split between 10 people, or split among 10 people, I don't see how it has to keep growing
because it was created as we started that analogy as there's $100, and each person has 10.
Okay.
But what if there's $100? And that's created as debt, which means now you have to pay back 110.
Yes,
there's only
that
100.
I do agree with you in that scenario. On our current system, how the Federal Reserve makes money or creates the money and how it all works, that I agree is not good. So I agree with that. The scenario I'm talking about is not when you have to pay back the creator of the money interest. Because that can't happen. If I create, it's like your example in the book that you told me about. If I create something and I lend one to you and I say pay me back two, and you can't create it or anything, and I'm the one that creates it. If I put my stamp and it has to have my signature, every dollar has to have my signature, and I write on one piece of paper and I say pay me back two of my signature. Well, now what?
Well, that's the society we live in.
I agree with you. That's wrong.
All right. So the effects of that society is that there's more debt than money, and it means we have to keep growing. We have to either keep consuming more, or we have to keep making more money to pay the debt. And the only place that comes from, because there's more debt than money, is printing more money.
Is that the creator of the money?
Yeah. So it necessitates printing money.
Okay.
And it necessitates that the people keep making more money, that the money system grows.
Okay.
Because it has to keep growing to pay the debt.
So I agree with you on that system. So we can either continue to talk about that system now in an agreement point, or we can continue the disagreement where I think in the environment where we talked about where there's not a creator of money, where there's just $100 among 10 people and there's no creator of money in the society, those 10 people don't as a whole have to pay back $110. They don't have to pay back more money than that's in circulation in the society. We can either argue about that, or we can, I guess, move forward and discuss the money system now and discuss how it's a system that's set up.
I'm curious to find solutions to the system, the money system. I think in the example you mentioned, there are still negative consequences to money because it doesn't, if there's interest,
Okay.
because it doesn't reproduce, and yet you're wanting it to reproduce.
Okay.
It doesn't decay. You know, if I have 10 loaves of bread and I don't eat them, they're going to mold.
Okay.
But if I give them to you, I build goodwill, you get to eat, and even though I have less bread, there's value in it. You know, whereas money doesn't rot, so I could literally hoard it for generations.
Yes.
Like there are certain properties of money that create a driving force that causes harm, I believe. So.
I kind of agree. I kind of do agree with you that there are certain properties, even just the fact of assigning a certain value to your work in exchange for someone else. I agree that that has an effect on society, where instead of me just going and helping out my neighbor and then him helping me out and everyone's just helping everyone out, in that, ideal society, if now everything, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. It's very transactional, and it kind of, it doesn't make people feel. That's why I really, I don't like doing my profession, how I make money. I don't like doing it with family and friends, people that I know, because it feels, like, oh, you're going to charge me your full price or even a discount. You're going to charge me when, last month I helped you do X or whatever, as a friend or family member. So I do agree with you on that. I think where we might disagree is, in my mind, I can think of a scenario where if you take out that, it logically can work, where you can have a mathematical, if there's X number of dollars among X people, and you trade this, that, like the math works. But I do within that closed system, not the system where you pay back the creator.
I think if everyone was Jesus in that closed system, where money wasn't created with interest, but you lend with interest, it might mathematically be possible.
Yes.
Even though that's
I think what I was arguing with you.
Even though I don't think that's practically how people would work, I think people would try to, who were lending would want to have more than others.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where money is created as debt, and there's more like money and money owed than there is money.
Okay. All right. So because we don't have a lot of time, so I'm happy with the way we discussed this. I think there's two kind of topics. One, I think you. I feel rushed. That's why I'm trying to get 5 minutes of thoughts into a minute. I have time to do another one. So let's do one of those cuts and.
All right. I like when you did the
pen drop. All right, we're back. All right. Okay. So what I was trying to say is almost like a quick recap, where I guess there's no disagreement anymore. Where we felt we were disagreeing, I think, was us not understanding each position. Because within the closed system, where there's $100 and you're not paying back the creator, I do agree that there are negative effects. And I was arguing that there's mathematically a scenario where, if everyone acted like Jesus, you didn't have to pay back more money than what was created. So if we agree that there's a scenario where the math works, but there's the negative effect and almost like force that you're saying that comes with it, that creates a society, ill effects on society, then I agree with that. The second kind of topic is when there's a society and the creator of money, and the creator of the money lends into society at an interest money. Because then when the money is created, the interest that needs to come back doesn't exist. So that, I agree with you, is a horrible scenario, and that's, I believe, the scenario that we live in now.
So let's explore. I'm curious about the consequences of that. So let's just explore that.
So the first one we can kind of put aside. We both agree.
I mean, we could talk about the details of the properties of money, but I'm mainly concerned with the society as a whole and the mathematical conclusion based on the money system.
So now I guess we'll move forward and explore that in agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, our current society, I know you had texted the picture where it just keeps going up like this, up like that. And it's at some point, does it go vertical?
Yeah.
At what point does it go vertical?
The stock market.
Well, you did the stock market, but you could do the same thing with the debt. The debt, I mean, it goes. At what point does it go vertical, and what happens then? So it's
Well, that's my concern.
yeah, and you can do it also with. I mean, it has an effect. The debt, the stock market, which I guess prices, stock markets.
Like our ability to consume. It's like how much can we increase our consumption? If the money has to keep growing
yeah.
to pay the debt, how can we increase our consumption like forever? Like how can we? I can only eat so much. I can only have so many houses and so many cars. It's like I just
The only. I mean, I completely agree with you with the increasing consumption.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of ways where we can increase our consumption. I think maybe technology can continually increase.
But technology, when you're buying a Tesla, you're buying that instead of a Ford. It's not like you're getting or instead of a Toyota or instead of a whatever.
What I mean the consumption is I'm thinking of the consumption of, like, for instance, we're consuming now, smartphones.
Yeah, but
and that didn't
technology
exist.
gets cheaper. If we need to be spending more, and innovation makes things cheaper.
It does.
The only solution to grow the money system is to print money, which is a circular. It's like the more you print money to pay the debt, the less the money's worth. So it's like if you follow that to the end point, it's either a moneyless society and a utopia where we're all happy and loving and
yeah. All right. So I guess I think we both agree that there's a problem, and I feel like we're on the edge. Like if that curve, I mean, not to do it again, but as it goes, we are at that point where it's about to go vertical. I feel like we're
it's like the growth. Yeah, if you look at the stock
some
market,
point we'll be like rocket ship straight up,
and that's impossible.
So
you can't hit vertical. You can't because
it is impossible to go absolute vertical.
Yeah,
I mean, you can get close, but when you're close, how much time until complete collapse?
Yeah, you can't. You can't just.
All right. So, do we want to maybe think of what we think might happen?
Well, I mean, I'm getting some of this information from that book I read, Sacred Economics, and he said that the only solution to prevent collapse of the money system is either redistribution of wealth.
That's a whole topic in and of itself, and the second you say that, I feel.
Well, we're taking it from the people who basically made the money.
That's a whole topic, and that's
All right, or we default, like we basically just say we can't pay the debt, and we default. And then there was a third possible.
Is he talking about societies in general under a money system
of interest?
Or is he specifically talking about what's going to, the options for the United States?
Society as a whole, the money system, the global money system.
The global money system.
So there's more debt than money.
So when you say default, or when he says
like
default,
we say the U.S. says to China, sorry, we can't pay those trillions we borrowed. Default.
Okay.
Redistribution would be like, well, I don't know, because if you take basically like a universal basic income, basically like paying people money so they can keep consuming.
I don't like both of those options.
So I don't like any of the options. But
is there a third option?
I forget the third option. Yeah. But mathematically, and I'm just talking about pure physics. I don't see how we can keep growing money infinitely.
I don't see how as well.
And the more we print, it's like, and the cheaper things get, and the more we have to consume, it's like we're just going to be like racing to consume as much as we can as quick as possible. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at the debt alone, we're now the debt is growing so fast.
Yeah.
Like, what did we put on the 4 trillion? I mean, it's what it's a 30 trillion or something. It's just insane, and the rate every year we just keep putting on more and more debt than the previous year. So it's.
I think it's either going to end. I think it's a mathematical certainty that the money system is going to collapse. I think whether or not that ends in a free utopia where all our needs are met and we're all loving and we just all get whatever
Star Trek-esque.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. That would be great. I'm hoping.
Or like utter anarchy and chaos and war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
hoping.
mean, there's probably middle grounds as well, where there's
Yeah.
probably pockets of more misery than others.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to talk maybe how it will affect our lives? I mean, maybe our...
Well, I think I personally don't own any stock. So if the stock market collapsed, nothing, I'd get up the next day and go to work and nothing would be different for me.
Okay. Now, with, even people that own stock, like I own some, but nothing... I mean, nothing. Or if I lost it all tomorrow, I'd be like, "Oh, that stinks." Like, and I'd be like, "Oh man, I can't. You know why? You know." And I'd have those feelings. But right now, how it's affecting my life with me owning it is it's a number that the computer screen says I have. Does it really affect my day to day? I mean, until I actually withdraw it and spend it to buy something, a wheelbarrow or a shovel or something, right now it's just a number. So at this moment, everyone who owns stock, it's just a number in a computer. So if they lost it all, obviously, mentally they'd have an issue, especially if they owned a lot. But they probably could do the same. They probably could get up and go to work the next day, or get up and just live their life.
Yeah, I think the average American who's just working hard, has a 401k for retirement, I think it'd be a huge emotional blow to lose their retirement. But I think
if
they had
retirement, that would be tough.
I think if they had enough family support and like they weren't relying on that money right now, and I think they might be able to survive and make it work.
That's just the stock market collapsing as a whole. That's not other effects. I mean, we can talk about other effects like prices and inflation and the you know, if now you go to buy a loaf of bread, it's $500.
It's like the stock market is just not going to collapse independent of everything else. I mean, look at '08. They had to bail out the banks. Well, to prevent society from collapsing.
Had to. I mean, that's a whole discussion too on whether or not they should have, or really had to, or.
But it's like if the stock market collapses, the whole money system's going to collapse, and then it's like at that point, money is basically useless, and it can either devolve into like a anarchistic barter system where it's like, here I got some whatever. It's like
but here's I guess where I worry.
Yeah.
Where I worry. If the money system collapsed, I feel like I have had good relationships. I went through my life, and I apologize if there's something I did do, but I feel like I've been good to people that I've interacted with. I've obviously made mistakes in my life. I've obviously been mean to people at times, and I know I've lost my temper with certain people. But I think as a whole, I've tried to have fair exchanges and relationships with people. And I feel like I can continue that without money. And I feel like I've developed maybe enough skills and enough variety where I could continue those relationships, and I feel like I'd be fine without money. The problem is taxes, property tax. So if you can't live on land or live in a home or whatever without paying property taxes to the government, and you now need to get those dollars, and that whole system collapsed for whatever reason, what do you do? And I mean, does that lead to a government collapse if everyone's in the same boat?
Yeah, I mean, if everyone's in the same boat and no one can pay their taxes, are they going to evict everyone? Like, where's everyone going to go?
I guess that would go into if there's a corrupt government or not, and if there's a corrupt government that uses power, and what power would they use? I mean, if they use a military or police force, the military and the police force are probably going to be in the same boat everyone is in, so they're going to say, like, no, I'm not doing that. But what if they have an army of robots? I mean, like...
Well, I mean, I know I argued emphatically in the last video, or in a couple videos ago, that end times is inevitable, but I do believe that there's also going to be the potential for a positive income or outcome, or at least once we get through the challenging part, a peaceful future after that. I'm hoping. I think you mentioned a key point about relationships. I think community would be a very valuable thing, and that's one of the things argued in the book Sacred Economics, is that community is what's really would get us through in those times, is like those relationships with family and our community members, and that goodwill that we've built, that's really what's gonna get us through in the absence of money. So I don't know what the transition will look like or how long it'll take, but
I agree that relationships are extremely important, and somebody who's very influential to me, she has said to me numerous times in the past that really what matters in the world is relationships, and how we interact with each other. And right now, that's suffering as a whole on the globe. I mean, we can go back into all the reasons with screens and this in society. We can go into what's going on with the world nowadays, this year in 2020, what's going on.
But maybe I think we agree that it's a mathematical, there's a mathematical conclusion to the money system.
Well, I do. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any possible scenario.
I mean, if we change the system, we could basically, as a globe, we could say we forgive all debt and we're no longer printing money as interest-bearing debt.
Forgiving all debt, I almost feel like that's not fair. It's not forgiving debt to the creators, yes, but why should two people, when one person maybe was responsible with their money and didn't go into debt, and another person borrowed for vacations and borrowed for this and borrowed for all and now owes a lot of debt, why should the other person now just suddenly not? Is there a better answer?
I don't know if there's a practical solution because I think there are people who aren't good. If everyone was like Jesus, there would be practical solutions.
Yeah.
But because there's a percentage of the population that serves evil and wants to do harm, doesn't care about the well-being of others, I don't think there's a practical solution.
Yeah.
I think I don't really know how it's going to play out. I think
so. I don't really know. I mean, we can guess and try to foresee, but I don't think we know how it will play out as well. I would like to know maybe a guess as to when it'll play out. Which again, we don't know when it will play out. But I mean, do you think that it's something that will happen within the next couple of years? Do you think it's something that will happen in the next couple of decades, or maybe a couple hundred years? What range do you feel? And I've been I've been expecting since the 2008 crisis. I've been expecting another severe either recession or depression for the last 12 years now, and I would have thought it would have come many years ago, but now I feel like it's any moment. Like at any moment it can just totally break down. But I've been feeling like that for a while. Yes, the feeling has gotten stronger, but is it really next year could be the year, or is it 150 years from now it happens?
I don't really, there's so many factors that I don't think that can be predicted. If society decides to do a universal basic income, that's going to change the dynamics and the way that's going to play out. There's so many.
I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want to run out of time. And I agree, we can't predict it, and whether or not we predict it accurately. I mean, really, what matters is what can we maybe do now? How can we act so it either doesn't happen or it happens in a way that is best?
I mean, for me, this is not a fearful conversation. I'm excited by the fact, not excited, but I'm optimistic about the fact that there's math and physics involved in the money system. It's kind of out of our control, and I am looking forward to a positive future. And I think as individuals, if we just know, to me, being aware of things is not fearful. It's okay, I can make conscious choices now, and I can know that I'm not going to live for money. I'm going to live for relationships or for what's really matters in life, or it just informs our decisions about how we live our life.
Yeah, and I guess I want to touch on those decisions. You said, live for relationships. I would much rather. Do you know when people are negotiating a deal? The typical negotiation is both sides are trying to get the other person to either go lower or higher in their favor. I feel like something clicked in my mind a while ago. I don't know, years, 5 years ago. So at some point in time, where what I want is for both parties to have come to the most fair conclusion. So if the price is X, I don't want it to be X plus any, and I don't want it to be X minus any. So, and that's how we should all be negotiating. Every exchange we do, it should be what's best, what's a fair exchange. So that goes with relationships. I would rather have an interaction with someone where the relationship was good, but I maybe lost money, or it didn't get as much as I could have, than a scenario where the relationship fell apart or something, and I got an extra out of that deal.
Well, here's the thing: even if this whole conversation with the money system was irrelevant, we're still going to be relieved of our money at some point. Eventually, even if it's when we die, we're going to be relieved of our money.
Well,
and
yes.
and I think focusing on what really matters in life and what's really of value is key, and that's why we touched on a previous episode about not serving money, not pursuing money, like that, not making that like our focus in life. And personally, me knowing that the money system, what I believe is going to happen to it, helps free me from that. It's like it's like sand.
It's almost like if you're in an intense game of Monopoly, and then at some point you just realize like it's just Monopoly money. If I lose or if I win, whether or not I get Boardwalk, or like it's just Monopoly money.
Fiat,
we'll shut the board game and go on with our lives.
Fiat currency is Monopoly money.
It really
Fiat
is right
basically means when something's like spoken into an existence.
Yeah.
Like, let there be money, and someone just prints it.
Yeah.
That's what fiat
it's not backed by
is.
anything.
No.
And our currency used to be money. It used to actually be backed by
gold.
money. Gold.
Yeah.
Then, so again, we're out of time, and unless you want to do another cut.
No, I mean, I think we made some good points, and I think
there's more to talk about, but at least we got some juices flowing in our mind, and hopefully we're a benefit.
Yeah.
In some way. So. Any final thoughts or comments before?
Just like, it's just a reminder to focus on what really matters in life.
I agree, and those reminders are important, because people might watch this, or even us. We might have this conversation, and then we go out and I start driving and I forget, put on music, and I start driving. Somebody cuts in front of me, and I totally forgot, and now I'm reacting to it. So keep being reminded daily, hourly, as often as we.
That's why I read the Bible every day, so I don't forget.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Take care.